So welcome back to our yet unnamed video series of unnamed length of unnamed direction, and I have I have a topic today that I'm curious about, and I think one of the things I'm appreciating about these conversations so far, it's sort of a place for me to um, whittle down my judgments. The things that I think one of the things that I really appreciate that you just bring really naturally is that kind of integral perspective, let's say, or you bring the kind of just more perspectives. And there's some things that I find like I'm passionate about, or I have a strong opinion about, and and I think it's a nice place to kind of like smooth those edges a little bit. So that's what I brought today. How are you feeling? What's going on in your life? Are you excited about this? How are you doing?
uh, I'm good. It's like a little bit tired this morning. Happy to have my bulletproof coffee.
Oh
So.
yeah, it's very good.
And
Ye old mug.
excited to be chatting with you some more and seeing if we can like seeing where this might go and like how we can expand our thinking and just geek out about
Yeah,
ideas more.
yeah.
And yeah, it would be nice if like eventually we come up with a name for this so we get to say like what it is.
hmm
But
Two
not yet.
two philosophers on Skype drinking coffee. Right? I seen the comedians in cars getting coffee. Um,
Coaches with coffee.
Coaches with coffee. Yeah, yeah. I'm like an ex-coach kind of, but I'm
True.
like you can't really ever lead. It's like being the Marines. Like you're never really like not a
You're
Marine.
never
You
really
know,
out.
you never really
Because you're
you
pulling
never
me back
stop.
in.
It's always in you.
Someone's talking to you, they start talking about a problem, you start asking them questions like, damn, I'm
Right.
not supposed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to like care or like I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to help them get space around their thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just tell them what to think. I'm a writer.
I go, wow, this is what I would say to them if they would really listen, and then I just go back and write it. Without any like the niceties and like the question askings and is that true and blah blah blah. I'm just like this is what they need to know.
That is something nice about content creation. Like sometimes the things that I want to say to my clients, but I don't because I'm listening or just asking questions,
Yeah,
I get to go write an article about it.
you pretty much described 95% of my writing. That's it. That's it, really. Um,
There's something to this. Anyways,
I find that there's also just a few people that will go unnamed that I see on Facebook that are friends of mine. Some are really good friends, and I just you know Facebook sometimes is not the place to insert the here's why you're being an idiot right now.
mhm.
Um, but I'll take that energy and just go right. And that's great because I see they'll make a post about something and blah blah, and maybe they're being a victim or something or whatever.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'll gently call people out. A lot of times I use humor, as you know, and but I just kind of sometimes I'll just take that and go, okay, this is the article, and then sometimes I'll read it so quickly and post it that they'll be like, was that about me? Like they'll kind of know that I've gotten in trouble with that before. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. It was kind of rude. I mean, you knew, nobody else knew, but you knew, and sorry for being kind of using my judgmental assholeness to like write and
You
you
meant
know,
to hide your judgmental
right,
assholeness
and
by
just
like an artificial delay.
yeah, and it didn't work. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
quickly realized in writing that because I wrote like one really popular article towards the beginning of the year, got I started getting a ton of comments, and I quickly realized, oh wait, I'm not going to respond to any of these comments. Like
Mhm.
any response like worth writing, I should just write another article instead about that.
Hmm. Well, that's kind of what Medium does, right? Medium.com, if you write a response, it's considered an article, and they treat it like that. And I kind of like that in a way, sort of a departure from like the YouTube comment world, where it's like the internet bathroom wall. You're just gonna write the
Yeah.
stupidest shit that makes no sense and nobody cares, and you don't have a real name. It's just your username. So
Yeah, it's like YouTube. It's like being on a high wire. Do not look down.
yeah, totally. Unless you want to freak yourself out.
Hmm.
Um,
So
So
you had a
basically,
topic.
yeah. So what I want to my initial question, which of course I'll explain, is basically like how much achievement is too much, and clearly there's a sliding scale. Clearly there's like the feel what that's for you, what's authentic. Okay, if maybe that's your DNA, maybe that's who you are, maybe that's who somebody else is. Somebody else wants to meditate all day, you want to hustle all day, whatever. Clearly there's differences in personalities, but I can't help but see. I just can't help but call bullshit, and I don't know. I also don't know if it's me projecting what I've gone through in my life or my desires based on what the world is telling me I should want. But it just seems like every year. I mean, in a way, actually, this is the reason I got out of life coaching, is because what I was doing before when I was coaching was mostly achievement based coaching. So I'd help people achieve things, and I lost the taste for it myself. And then that slowly kind of just molded into like some like helping people just do what they want to do, but with more ease and happiness, which was fun. But when the achievement dropped out, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Like, I just want to make people happier. And if I'm going to help them with this project, but it's not going to make them any happier, like, what's the point? Because I didn't really care about that in my own life anymore as much. I wanted to like make art and do other shit. So the example I use of someone is this guy Gary Vaynerchuk, who I just showed you this video of, and I think a lot of people know Gary. I really love who he is as a person. He's the kind of guy I would want to have lunch with. He'd probably be checking his phone every 2 minutes, but he's a really genuine guy. He cares about people. His whole motto is like, family first, right? I know from him saying it, his schedule is he goes from like 6 a.m. to like he literally books himself to like almost midnight with clients and other stuff. Every meal is a business meeting and all that kind of stuff, and then he spends the weekend with his family, Saturdays, Sundays, and then he turns his phone off and does that, and I think that's great. I wonder what he does with the keynote speaking conferences that are all on the weekends. I'm sure like he's not spending every weekend with his family, and I don't know. And regardless, I just think there is I think he's living out the delusion that many of us are living, in that there is some sort of happiness found in this like hustle, achieve more, you don't want it bad enough kind of world. And I just think there is like I question like, what is there anything in there? Is there any juice to squeeze in this world? And if there is, what does that feel like versus the other like unhealthy hustling? And how do we know? How do we know if we're doing something that, okay, like I want to start an intentional community here. That's going to be a ton of fucking work. But it feels different. It feels like, geez, like this feels inspiring. This is like a thing or whatever. And, versus like, I want to be an entrepreneur and have a successful business because that's what everybody else is doing. So I got to find I'm going to sell iPhone parts. All right, well, I got to hustle and make that and do the deals. And then I want to have employees, and then I want to have an office, and then I want to sell the company. And like I never stopped to think, like, do I really want, like, is this really the life I want? Am I just buying a job, where I work all day? And so that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've thought about similar things before, but
definitely, yeah. And it's interesting. In a lot of my coaching, a lot of it's reassuring people it's okay for you to not have achieved that, and maybe like just not having achieved it yet. And for some context, the video that you just had me watch was watching a day in the life of Gary Vaynerchuk, who's I'm not as familiar with. I recognize him, but yeah, it's a very active lifestyle, like meeting. There's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of like extrovert energy to it. It's exciting to watch, and yeah, it is part of a common cultural narrative, or at least an American narrative, of like, this is what success looks like.
Yeah.
And I can't tell from watching that video whether it's something that's totally feeding, totally nourishing Gary or not. It might be like that's his best, most natural expression.
Right.
And it might be that it's totally burning him out. Like that would definitely burn me out doing that 2 days in a row. I think one day of that can feel awesome. I've had some days like that where it's just like boom, boom, boom. Usually if there's like an
Yeah.
intensive or if I'm leading something or sometimes at conferences where it has that energy to it,
Hmm.
it's really lively. But then I need to just like go home and hide for a day or for a week.
Yeah.
Different people have different ideals here for like how much energy, how much intensity, how much success as you're referring to it here. And there's a difference between like lifestyle and achievement.
Mm.
Achievements are like a bit more vague. It could mean anything. Like what I just saw and what I've been thinking about with Gary is just like it's sort of like a success story like lifestyle, independent of what he's actually achieved.
Hmm.
It's also people who have achieved amazing things where they probably do spend most of their day just meditating, and then they just write maybe for like an hour each day. But what they write is so amazing it changes the world.
Hmm.
There are people like that as well. But yeah, so like the view of Gary, like in a suit, jumping from meeting to meeting, talking to potential clients, giving a speech in the middle of the day, and this is just like presented as if this is a typical day for him, which it might be.
Hmm.
That is what we're being fed as Americans. Is like this is what success looks like. This is what you should want,
Yeah.
and if you don't have this, you should feel bad.
Like he'll tweet at like 9 p.m. Who's still hustling, or are you watching Netflix? And it's like
Hmm.
I get that, and he's also he came over from Belarus as an immigrant when he was really young, and so he has that kind of classic, immigrant American dream, which I think too many of us have lost an appreciation for what we have and the opportunities we have here. But it's just like he's never stopped that in a way. Like there's like that kid with the lemonade stand is just like there's just as much I got to do this, and I just see it all over the place. I see it with a lot of people. You know.
Yeah, if I were like coaching him, like one of my questions for him would be like, do you fundamentally like feel okay? Would you be okay if you weren't doing all that?
I think that's
Do
a
you,
really great question. Yeah, who would you be if this was all taken away from you?
yeah. If you had no one to meet with, if you had no opportunities, no hustle, it's like if he was sitting alone in a room, would he be okay with himself?
Yeah.
And you could ask the same question of someone who keeps on going to meditation retreats. Would you be okay
Mm,
spending a day of like meeting after meeting, give a speech, like create a proposal, do all this work,
mm,
like, assuming that it's doing something that is in alignment with your values?
yeah.
Would you still be okay?
Because I think about it sometimes. Like to me, the healthy hustle feels like a dog. I think for the most part, we see that dogs would rather be out playing in a field than napping on a couch. They don't mind napping on a couch, and they probably don't even have a preference anyway either because they're dogs. But if you say, "Hey, like you want to go for a walk," and then you grab a stick or something, like they're like, "Hell yeah, this is great!" Like this is what I was born to do. I was born to chase things and bring them back. And so I feel like that would be the healthy expression for me of this hustle of, even just doing stuff like this. I recorded 2 podcasts last night, 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. I was up late editing them. It was fun. I liked it. It's like, but there is that, and then there's, but I don't know. Maybe you could say some people are like a dog. Some people have that constitution where just sitting. I mean, I think if you just had a dog sit in a room all day and never be able to go anywhere and do anything, it wouldn't just start to be, it wouldn't be like, okay. And I'm talking about a dog as a human with a dog constitution.
Yeah.
If you had someone like that, if that even exists, then, would they be okay if you put them in a room and said, who would you be if you weren't out chasing sticks? And they would be like, I don't know. And I really want to go chase sticks. So would you get out of my way? Like, I wonder sometimes, like I wonder if, and maybe some people are more balanced, and then some people I know, like Paula, would not be okay with doing the hustle all day. Like she's, her a lot. I mean, she meditates about 2, sometimes 3 hours a day. She spends about 1 to 2 hours in the hot tub, sometimes meditating, sometimes not. She writes, journal entries. She connects with friends. She sells, tickets to our events by just connecting with people and does stuff like that. So she's working, she's doing other stuff, but it's very different. And I know that she would not be okay. Well, I don't know that actually. She'd probably be like, I could probably do that. But like,
it's like, I don't prefer this, but I'm still okay.
Yeah. Like, and I think I know I'm more like Gary than I am like the monk who could sit in a room all day. And so that's also why I wonder, well, am I judging that part in Gary because that's just the part of me, which it clearly there's some of that in there. And I could be that. And sometimes I watch those videos and that's sort of why I wanted to talk about it too, because I was like, oh, man, like when he sends out that tweet, like 9 PM, are you hustling on Netflix? I'm like, dude, fuck you, man. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you serious here? Or he'll do like a video on Monday mornings being like in New York City surrounded by, this is hectic. And he's like, it's Monday morning, let's hustle. And it's like, God damn, man. I just don't, that's just not me. And yet I get it. And, maybe I've been trying to reverse that in myself, which is why I project judgment on. But, yeah, I really don't know. And Gary actually would say, because he's had a lot of that kickback because he is, he has a wide audience and some people are pretty smart and philosophical. And they're like, Gary, like, you say family first, but it doesn't seem like you're really like, is that really you? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and they'll ask really good questions. Yeah, they'll ask really good questions. I called my mom from 11 p.m. to, 11 a.m. to 11:15 a.m. or whatever, and it's like, and they'll ask him and he has responded to it. And I like how he engages it. And he'll say, this is my DNA. This is just me. You do you. I do me. You do you. And I know that's a pretty cliche answer when it comes to this stuff. It's based in truth, and also I think is a cover up too. Mm-hmm. And so that's what he would say, and I think that's what a lot of people would say. But I don't really know.
Yeah. And I don't know him well enough to have a read on him whether he really means it. Because it could be like, I wouldn't categorically look at Gary and say like, oh my God, that guy is like not actually authentic, or he's like headed for a crash. His way of being, I'm sure it's at least to a large degree, if not total, like he's in his zone of genius. Mm-hmm. He's definitely extroverted, energetic. He likes meetings. He likes ideas. He likes talking fast. He likes thinking a lot. He likes having a full schedule. And there's like a chemical ride there where he's like where it's a high energy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that might be where he feels the most ease. That might be his center of gravity. That's where his genius is. That's where he just does it. And if he was in a room, if he was like going slowly, or if he was like alone, or like not doing that in some way, if he was doing something different, if he was living Paola's lifestyle, mm-hmm. That would be torture for him. Which is like, I need to do something. I need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's value in both. There's value in recognizing like, where's your sweet spot? How active is it like most natural for you to be? And how much can you stretch into other ways of being at the same time? Mm-hmm. So just like there's more of you possible. And you can still prefer to be like high octane living the whole time. Mm-hmm. But if you're afraid of the alternatives, if there's an avoidance there, mm-hmm. then that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, there's obviously a lot of gray area in what we're talking about, but I feel like without a doubt, if Gary, and we're just using Gary as this profile of a person. There's no actual connection to him as a being. So it's certainly not, we're not trying to solve
He's
his
an archetype.
Life. He's an archetype. We're just using him, he's very convenient. And I see, like, I could say, I couldn't say, okay, Gary should work and stop work at 5 p.m. and shut off all his electronics. I know that would be best for him. I can't say that. I could say maybe with almost a very high degree of certainty that, like, let's say he took a month off and and did something did a very introspective thing. I did a bicycle trip across Europe for 3 months. Like 4 years ago, I rode from London to Greece on a bicycle, and it was amazing, life changing, totally. Just really changed the course of my life, and it helped me get clear on things that I didn't even know I needed to get clear about. And let's say he took 30 days and walked the Camino, in Spain. You know about the Camino de Santiago? Yeah. So let's say he did that. Like, I could say without a doubt, probably, that if he did that for 30 days, that would greatly benefit his life and his business. And I think that, so it's in a way, it's like, I get that maybe he runs on that, like, he's high octane, like he runs that when he's going, and that's fine. But there's also a price of that. There's there's things you'll miss if you're running like that every day. And by taking like a 30-day fast of that would make a huge difference. It wouldn't be easy. I mean, you'd have to schedule all this stuff, but but it's very possible. He's certainly got enough money,
Yeah. So, I definitely am a very strong believer in the need for renewal. There's like work and renewal time.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it's like one of the earlier things that I learned about when I was like reading success. About success, one of the first books I read was called The Paradox of Success, which very much talked about the danger of just being in work mode all the time, and how people are unhappy, how they're crashing, the need for renewal. But I've also realized that there's different styles of renewal. And it's also like there are skills that can be built up over time as you get better at renewal. So there's some people who are go, go, go day after day after day, and then they go off for a 10-day meditation retreat. And that's their renewal. Like they batch it all up within an intense chunk of time, or like a long vacation, or taking a year-long sabbatical.
Yeah. I'm definitely more apt to do that too. Like that's my style more,
Yeah, that's
It's not
not as
easy,
much.
but
Yeah, that requires you to be able to be really in each mode. Like when you're in work mode, you're really in work mode
yeah.
nonstop. And when you're in the renewal mode, you're completely in that mode. Like uh, devices go off, you're disconnected from the world, you're doing like everything else. You're feeding like the rest of your existence through the renewal period. There's also a style of renewal where it's monk mode, where it's built into the day. Like you know exactly how you're going to renew, when you're going to renew throughout the day, like taking breaks or knowing it's a good practice at sometime during the day to have a shutdown period. Like, okay, at this point in the day, I am complete. Like no more work after this period.
Right.
Or like one of the things that I do, like I have a nap in the middle of each day. I do like around noon, and like that's become part of my practices.
Nice.
So it's building into your day that need for pausing, for stopping, for letting thoughts settle down and nourishing the rest of whatever is not being addressed during the more intense parts. And yeah, so like that's building it into the day is an alternative way of doing it.
Yeah. I do. I just spent the 3 days in Mexico last weekend, and we were driving back. We drove back. It took like 5 hours to get back to the border, but like 8 p.m. to like 1 a.m. And that was Sunday night. And I remember thinking, I could turn on my phone here, but it's like my brain is just fried. I just don't want to do that to myself. So I waited until I waited the next morning. I got the coffee. I sat at my desk. I relaxed, and then I said, "All right, release the hounds." And I was like, like off airplane mode. It's like, blah, blah, blah. And it felt so good to do it that way versus this kind of like, well, I'll check a few emails here, And
Yeah.
and I really want to do more of that. And part of that also is the shutdown mode too. Obviously, last night I didn't do that. I think that maybe was like a valid exception, but most of the time I just like peter off into the night. I'm like, so it's like 5 p.m. and I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling as good. 7 p.m. I'm like, clack clack clack. So I really do like I totally I want to incorporate more of like a formal shutdown for myself, and then like a formal startup too, where I can do something in the morning before I engage with the world of internet world, and that's really important, to me, and yeah, I mean it's hard for me because then I my most productive time I felt like was actually in Bali, and what I did in Bali, which is really interesting, is so the like 8 a.m. in Bali was about 4 p.m. Pacific time. So the mornings in Bali were kind of my prime time when it came to like doing interviews, or I was doing a lot of podcasting then too. So I really needed that time was really important to me. And it was also about 9 p.m. was when like the mass of people started showing up to the co-working space. So what 7 to 9 a.m. was beautiful because all the rooms were empty, like the Skype rooms were empty, and then the internet was fastest, and people were awake in California and East Coast too. And so I'd get up at like I had to get up. Probably wouldn't have done it if I didn't have to, but I had to get up. So I'd get up at 7. I'd take my scooter, feel the morning air in my face. It was beautiful. Drive the scooter down to the co-working space, make some coffee, sit there, do the interviews, and then I'd work, and I'd have a little snack at like noon, which is these little snacky bars for like $1 or something. And then I just work on like 1 or 2 cups of coffee until like 3 or 4 p.m. And I wouldn't really eat much except for that little snack bar thing. And then it would just be like a sprint, and I'd go, and then I would be done, and then I'd hit this Padang on the way back, which is kind of like Balinese, like street food. But I hit the same one. I loved it. It was just this great place. I was super fucking hungry at that point. So it's just like, oh, like it's like rewarding myself for like doing this whole work. And then I'd go there and I'd eat, and I'd get back to the dojo around like 5 p.m. and then hang out with people at night. And then I'd do the same thing in the morning. And that was as an ideal routine as I've found for myself. And now I have an office in my house, so it's harder because I can just like sneak in here whenever I want, and then I'm like kind of sleeping in and like that, and there is something missing for me because I really did miss that, it's just funny. It took me a while to discover that.
Yeah, you don't have the external constraints anymore, sort of like forcing you into this really nice routine.
Yeah, I don't. So one of the things I've tried to do is when people reach out and want help on something, we'll say, okay, cool, I'll schedule them at 8 a.m. on a morning. And usually I'm excited to help them, so it's something I'm looking forward to. And so I'll say, okay, cool, call me at 8 a.m. on Thursday. And then I put that on my calendar, and then, Wednesday night I'll be, okay, set my alarm. And I'll just set it for like 7:55. I'm not getting formal. I'm not getting paid to coach them. So I'm like, yes. Hey, like, if I wake up in the first 5 minutes of the call, whatever. So I'll say, okay. And then I'll wake up, just kind of like stretch out a little bit, grab my phone, grab my headset, and then hit the road, go for a walk. And then I'll talk to them and kind of wake up my brain over the next hour, and then come back. And I'm like, great. Now it's 9 a.m. I'm fully awake. I'm inspired because I feel like I just did something good and I helped someone. I've kind of like fulfilled some kind of purpose for the day, and then I get started then. That really works for me. But other than that, I haven't really been able to figure it out.
What if you just had a way so that like you always had a call at 8 a.m. every morning?
I did that for a while. Honestly, I used Calendly, and and I just would make 8 a.m. spots for Monday through Friday. And then I would email like my list and say, hey guys, if you want help with something, I'm down. It's going to be 45 minutes and 8 a.m. on Pacific time. If you can make that, dude, and they would just sign up, and it'd be great. And I do that occasionally, and I'll kind of revisit that occasionally too.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm realizing about like the bit that we saw about garage is like everything's scheduled. There's appointments. There's none of the extra thinking or planning about like what am I going to do with these couple hours. It's not like having the pile of infinite work and creation. It's more like I have this many minutes to work on this project before the next meeting.
Right.
And there's something that's very exhilarating about that.
Totally.
Like I have a lot of calls scheduled in my life right now. So like lots of coaching conversations, conversations with prospective clients and things like this conversations.
Hmm.
And I find that that makes just my life a lot easier, having
Totally.
those things that I'm working around.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, where we have control over our schedule and where we work from home and we have like so much freedom
Hmm.
that it requires like a lot of extra willpower to focus.
Oh yeah.
When we have when we either have external forces making us focus, or we've just set up our life so that, which is basically the same thing, or we've set up our life so we have lots of constraints, then we're freer to flow. There's like a Shiva Shakti thing happening here.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Our schedule is our Shiva, and we get to be more Shakti. Just like go with it. It's like,
Right.
okay, there's a conversation. Let's see what happens. There's
Yeah.
a coaching call. Let's see what happens. Just not
Yeah.
need to plan ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, I get of actual like I get very I get scared when I see when I look at my calendar and there's nothing going on the next day. I'm like, fuck. Like, I gotta fill that, or I need to. What I really, what I really know that I need is I need to create some structure. So, and I'm not saying, okay, I need to go call someone and have an appointment, or that would be cool. But it's like, cool. I need to then, and I have some ways that I do this for myself, which I think have worked. I create a reward. So I'll go, okay, I'll see what movies are out, and I'll say, okay, what movie do I really want to see right now? Sometimes none, but hopefully there's something if it's a superhero movie, especially. And then I'll go, okay, I'll look up the show times. Like, okay, there's one at 3:30. So if and then I'll go and I'll look at what I want to get done that day, and I'll give myself like a pretty like a solid goal, nothing too crazy. But if I got that done in the day, I'd be happy. And I say, okay, if I get all this stuff done before 3:30, because the movie doesn't start at 3:35, the movie starts at 3:30, like it's a set time, and then there's, so that's kind of nice. You can't go to the movies whenever you want. If I get all that done, I'll go to this movie, and if I can, and if I don't, I won't. And that always really helps me when I can reward myself with something at the end of the day, if I
Hmm.
have nothing going on, because it's really really tough otherwise.
Yeah.
You know.
Um, yeah, it's a great motivator. There's a danger of like using that too much if you're failing. If you keep on not getting the reward.
Yeah. I usually almost always get it. I mean, it really actually works.
Cool.
I'll even do it in like a miniature way. Like I had this game in my iPhone for a while, um, and I'd have this impulse to go like play it, for like 15 minutes, and I'd say, okay. And again, I didn't always do it this way, but this really worked. I'd be like, okay, I won't give into that, but I won't say I'll never do it. Okay, if I get this and this done, I'll play that game. And the truth is, after 2 minutes, the actual urge the craving to play it goes away anyways. But my mind doesn't know that. My mind's like, okay, all right, well, we'll get to play it just like in half an hour after this is done. And then I get into working and I just want to keep working.
Yeah, like that mental trick is so important. Like when you have an immediate craving,
Yeah,
like, oh, I really, really want to do this like right now. It's like I can see like my finger going or my hand going towards the phone to play the game, or
yeah,
like I see myself about to type in F to go to Facebook.
yeah.
Um, that mental game of like, you will get to do this soon.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like
Be your
don't
own
worry.
parent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get to do this in a minute. Yeah, it's parenting yourself. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, so like once you finish your homework, then you get to check Facebook. You get to play the
Yeah.
game on your
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
Like having the shutdown time is one of the things that helps that. Like after you shut down, then you feel free to play the game as much as you want.
Mm.
Having this also reminds me of cheat days, like in the slow carb diet. Like
Yeah.
there's a cheat day where you're sort of expected to eat anything and everything that you're not supposed to be eating in the rest of the week. So that if there's a craving, it's like, oh, I want ice cream. It's like, well, put it on the list of things to have on my cheat day. It's like I'm going to have it. So that helps us like not be in the we're denying ourselves. Like it's like, no, you can't have that ever again. or no, you can never play that game again, or no, you will never use social media again.
Right, brings out like our inner whiny child. No,
Yeah.
I'll show you. You know.
Yeah, because then we're competing. We're just like fighting ourselves. Then we've
Right.
got like two parts of ourselves at war. It's just like, I want this. No, you can never have that again.
Yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah, so like, it's like take notes like how parents deal with unruly children, because that's like what that part is. That
Yeah.
little that craving is just for like an unruly child.
Yeah.
It's like, I want this. Like, yeah, you'll get to have it in a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Like,
Delayed
you will
gratification,
get it.
really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I feel like I do that sometimes, but I really wish I was just better at that, like as a habit. And I
Yeah.
think this conversation is also helping me go like, yeah, do more of that for sure. Even something little, even that's kind of what I was doing with food, you know, because there was a part of me that when I was just hungry, I work better, you know, or like I notice, you know, this is ridiculous, but like, so I'll drink coffee in the morning. And then of course, after you drink coffee, you have to take a shit. And so then I'll like there and then there's this kind of like, I know that's gonna be great, like taking a shit, you know. And then so I'll be like working and I'll be getting something done, and I'm like, I know I have to go, and I'm like, okay, like, you know, like 10 more minutes, and then it's like, yes, I'm done, and then I'll go, you know, just anything. I'm always doing that with myself, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you get to enjoy that something is coming,
Yeah, yeah,
and enjoying that something is coming while you're doing work.
yeah,
It's almost like you're getting the best of both worlds. Like you're being productive, you're working, and like the good thing, in a way, you're already getting the reward. I think I've even seen like research to this effect. You're already getting the reward in your brain, knowing that you're going to have it eventually.
nice. Even if you never actually get it, it's still because I feel that with the video games, because most of the time if it's a craving for something like that, it'll just go away. I won't
Hmm.
actually want it afterwards, but I get the feeling of anticipation, which is it is like when it's an addiction to something, the anticipation is more pleasurable than the thing, you know. And so that's you can keep feeding off the anticipation, but use it as an energy to do something.
Yeah, it's like if you have an addiction, the anticipation, like knowing that you will satisfy it, is more satisfying than having it.
Absolutely, totally true. Yeah,
Because once you have it, then you're less satisfied. You need more.
yeah.
It gets worse
Well,
if you actually have it.
that was like on Sunday night and Monday morning, like the you know, that build up, like at 9, you know, like 9 a.m. when I'm making coffee and I know that I'm gonna get to, like, Facebook is definitely one of my addictions. So I knew I was gonna open up Facebook and there was gonna be tons of messages and things, people liked this, shared this, whatever, and I'm like, okay. And I like the anticipation of like going like, all right, it was like an orgasm. It's like, yeah, like this is great, you know. And I felt that the whole morning. I felt it the night before. I got to be in that anticipation, and it feels good. And then also I got to be in like the come down after, like, you know, 20 minutes of it. I'm like, I want that again. I want it again. Where else can I go to get it? Email. Oh, that's done now. Twitter. And then it's like, and then there's the wisdom of like, let yourself go, like stop and don't keep pining for shit, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the other problem that I have, is that I'll get in that, and then my brain will just keep going after that feeling, you know, of something else, something else, something else, and it just, you know, that gets weird.
Yeah,
Then I'm
it's
like checking
interesting.
the most random things, you know, just to try to get a little hit of that anymore, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely an energetic portion to this, like orgasm, or specifically like male orgasm, ejaculation, which is like the depletion of energy there.
Yeah,
And there's like the question of like how much energy can you hold? If you're like really excited, looking forward to something, like how much can you be with that excitement, that distraction while doing something else?
mm-hmm.
Can you hold a lot of energy, or do you need to like quickly pop out by satisfying that desire?
Mm-hmm.
How much can you want something where there's just like how much can you allow yourself to be compelled to check Facebook
Yeah,
without actually doing it? It's just like, it's like having an itch.
yeah,
And can you allow it's like a meditation when you have an itch. Can you just be with an itch?
yeah, yeah, totally. Did so I remember I did a writing retreat for myself in Bali, and I spent just like 4 or 5 days at this beach house by myself. And one of the coolest things was I would kind of tease the writing in a way that I would get up, I'd make some coffee, and I'd just hang out and just sit by the ocean, look out over the beach, and I would wait until I had like a burning desire to write, not just like because I knew I could open up the laptop, but I wait till like I had something that I had to write down.
Hmm.
I had to do it because I was writing a book and different stuff about, I needed an impulse, I needed an insight, I needed something to write on. It wasn't just like editing or something. And I just waited, and I remember the feeling of like, building it after like, okay, I could write something, but let's wait a little bit longer and see what happens. And then I'd write, and then wait, let's wait, and then I'd be like, all right, let's do this, like, and then I remember actually like, about like in the afternoon when I felt complete, like like one of the days I went and like jerked off because I was like, it just felt good. I was like, it was just that process, and it was like really, really cool. To just like be like, yeah, that's where like that's what it felt like. And yeah, it's so much better when we can like be and use that stuff. It's just there.
Yeah, and it's the same energy, like the creative energy. Is like it makes sense that like creating a lot. There's a lot of turn on there.
Yeah.
Um, and I lost my thought there. It's like sex. Suddenly, poof.
Anyways, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what helps me. And I really feel like if I, that is a sustainable routine. I mean, it makes me want to write about this. I don't typically give a shit about productivity, but it makes me actually really want to be like, oh, this is it. I discovered something really cool, and I feel like we could all do this better.
Yeah.
Because it's so that third option, which is we love, right? That's maybe that should be the name of our thing, like the third option, or like the third choice or something like that.
I like that.
Because it really is kind of, that's where we're always going for the third choice.
There's this and there's this. Then through the conversation we find the third option.
Yeah.
Or just like E, all of the above.
Yeah. Well, that is, and then like the third option is like the mix of the two. But it's like that. To me, the first two options are totally engaging your impulses, then you're just an addict or out of control. Denying your impulses, then you're like a Mormon or something. And then the third option is like, not, I love Mormons, but then you're like almost like fundamentalist religious kind of person, denying your impulses. And then there's the third option of using your impulses to drive you, but not being owned by them.
Yeah. It's like taking everything, integrating them, and it's like, okay, cool. Like now both are true. Like both are included.
Yeah. Working with it and like surfing the wave, instead of fighting it, instead of just going straight into the shore, like you're riding the edge of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something like is still with me, like that process you were talking about when you were writing, when you're sort of like teasing the writing. It's almost like like there's a seduction to the work.
Totally.
Which is a beautiful metaphor. Like if you were to characterize your style of working as a seduction, like what kind of seduction is it?
I mean, it's funny because I think my creative process has an element of seduction in it for the reader and the listener as well. So I do try to use that element in my creating, so people can experience something like that. But then there's also a different relationship with how I do it for myself. I mean, when I did it in Bali, I thought it was probably a very healthy mode of it. I really used that teasing, which was really fun, and I ended up writing really good stuff. I probably don't do that enough, to be honest. Like I probably don't actually tease the work enough. I don't wait for it to be like really inspiring, so much so that I can't not, work on it then. I don't build that energy as much. I disperse it, or I then go and check the emails and the Facebook, and that's something that like I just made a rule for myself. Like when I post something on Facebook that I think is pretty good, I don't let myself check anything for an hour. You know,
Hmm.
I wait at least an hour before I check because I'm always like, I always go on and I'll be like, oh, like I didn't get as many likes as they want. But then the truth is, if I waited like a day, I'll go on like, wow, look at all those responses. Like it's just some fucked up thing, you know. And so I try to wait as long as I can before I check the results of something that I put out in the world
Hmm.
because I always find that it's like I have an expectation that it should hit sooner than it does, and I'm never disappointed if I wait like a day. Really, it's like I'm always like, oh, well, like 10 people responded to that. That's pretty cool. Like even if it's, but if I did it, you know, so that's been a practice for me. But yeah, it's I really don't use it enough. I really should, and it would because it would, it's how I'm most successful. Um, what about you? Do you find what do you find in your practice?
So, so like my creative style, I mostly think in terms of the teleclasses, which is the main thing where there's more, there's more of a build up, like deliberately creating something.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely like a slow and like like a moment here, a moment there, coming up with what's the idea, like what's the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Then just like pooling ideas as they occur to me. Every once in a while, I have an idea, and I'll like sort of like put that into the file. Have an idea, put that into the file. But the bulk of the creative work comes from scheduling. I think for a lot of my creative process, at least right now, it comes from scheduling time blocks. It's like, okay, this is the time that I actually sit down and start writing,
Yeah.
start creating everything, like trying to squeeze it into this period of time rather than waiting for inspiration. If there's inspiration, I'll just write a couple things and like save that. And
Yeah.
usually it's just like a couple sentences or a couple words. Then there's like a large block of time. And that's where I go into putting everything together, making a mess, the whole creative process, the writing, and I'll schedule a couple of those blocks of time each time I'm creating a teleclass.
So it's almost like the time scarcity motivates you, like that you enjoy that. You're like, oh, here it is. Like this is it. I only have 2 hours. Like, you know, is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and my style of the creative work because uh, yeah, it's like I'll do like little snippets. Like if I have an idea, I will store it. That's like one of the reasons that I do just like single sentence Facebook bits of wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
is because every once in a while I'll have like one of those and I'll just record it and I'll get to share it later.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing when I'm creating larger things. I'm gathering some ideas for a couple of books. I've got teleclasses. I got all sorts of ideas for different things that I'll be creating.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't actually get created until I've scheduled time to work on them.
Hmm. Do you never just like pull over to the side of the road and like just work on something if it happens like with that or?
It's rarer. It does occasionally happen.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly when there's inspiration, I'll capture a few thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
but I won't go into full on work on it mode. And part of that is like because I have a lot of scheduled things. I don't have the time to just go into creating something. So it would be interesting how I might work if I went off on retreat or if I just like had a lot of time, which was unstructured, where I could go into hours of creation work on a
Mm-hmm.
whim.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious how that would play out for me. Like if I did a writing retreat, would like how would I operate? Would
Yeah.
how would that well would that work for me? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Do you find that your ideas have like kind of an enthusiasm half life? You know, like that if you wait too long, like what's your window with that?
Yeah, they definitely do. Because
Like a
I've kept
week? I feel like for me, like it's kind of like a week for me. I don't know how like it
I'm
depends.
not
On, some ideas are like huge; they can wait months. But like there's, yeah. What have you found for yourself?
Yeah, it might be a week. So I have like a lot of I have so many abandoned
I
ideas.
know, right?
I have just like piles and piles of notes of ideas. Like I someday I look forward to having a lot of time to schedule to just like be creating from all that stuff. But yeah, I do question like how much of that is lost. Um, if I had more of a setup
Yeah.
so that I could be like quickly creating something. And actually, like one of the things I would like to get to is like I want to try videos
Mm-hmm.
and get to the point where if I have an idea, something I want to rant about or share about, I could just like quickly create that video. That's an example of one of the things that would be quick to create. Just like it's quick and easy to create the little bits of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. And that would be in the moment. Like you feel it and you go, okay, doop, selfie video,
Yeah, it needs to
Yeah.
be something that doesn't take much time
Yeah.
because I'm highly time constrained right now.
I find that that's also a way better thing because you can overthink that stuff in a way that ultimately leads to a poorer product.
Hmm.
And instead of just going like, oh, I have a thought, like 5 seconds later, it's being recorded and you're just talking and you're just talking. And then I find when I'm trying to get a good creative performance out of myself, there is like a rushing that happens. So because I'm not trying to overthink it. So I'm just like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. Let's turn it on, let's go. Yeah, don't worry about it, just go, let's go. Yeah, and that's how I try to go with it.
Yeah, like I have a good process for creating larger chunk things, like the classes, where there's sort of a central theme, but then there's just like lots of ideas being poured into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sit down and like create the stew from all of those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of thoughts that I have, which are just one note things, or like one lesson, one idea, which I'm not creating content around, I'm not sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I want to fix. Like I want to like have more of a flow when I have an idea, something I want to like share with people. I want an easy way to express and share that idea without taking a lot of time and energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I've got this. Like, I want that to go through me.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about your teleclasses. I'm actually just personally curious. What was that? I got on a call for one that was a webinar. It was like, but that's different. What are the teleclasses you're creating, and how do you create them?
Um, Same thing. So like, I call them teleclasses because they're actually over the telephone,
Mm-hmm.
at least for the people attending.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what do you want to
So it's like a
know?
1 hour. So it's like a 1 hour thing with the PowerPoint, essentially. Is that
No
or
visual
no
aspect. So
visual? Yeah.
people are able to just dial in on the phone.
Oh
Some
yeah,
people
right.
are in their
They can speak on the
car.
phone. Yeah, yeah,
So that's what makes it a teleclass rather than a webinar
yeah.
semantically. But yeah, just like 1 hour, I use Maestro Conference so that we can have breakout groups and it's a bit
Yeah.
more workship like.
The breakout
People,
groups were great. That was so cool. I had no
it's
idea that that was even possible before I did one of your things, and I was like,
it's
"Oh, this
the
is so
only
cool."
service that does that. And it's so key. It's like it's the reason I'm using Maestro Conference is that it has the breakout groups.
Mm-hmm.
There's some downsides on the technology side to Maestro as well, but the
Okay.
breakout groups make it worth it
Yeah.
because it's like a workshop. I remember attending teleseminars before and wondering like, why am I dialing into this?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here?
Right.
Why
Why
don't
is
I
this
just listen to this
recording?
later?
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
could just listen to the recording. I quickly realized that there's no reason for me to be on the call. I know
Yeah.
that there's an energetic portion to it,
Yeah.
um, but besides that, there's very little utility to being live on the call.
Mm-hmm.
I should just
Mm-hmm.
send out audio recordings if I'm going to do that.
Right.
Why
And
even
then
have the
yeah.
pretense?
And then you do have to create that pretense, which happens with a lot of webinars. They're like, sign up for this webinar, and then
Yeah.
then you have to create this scarcity, like you don't release the recording, or then you have we're gonna replay the webinar the day later. Oh, look at that! But like, yeah, I love that. Like, there's actual real value in being on it with you,
Yeah.
and you'll miss something if you're not. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, and I can listen in the breakout groups.
Oh, nice.
So
I didn't
so
know that.
I
That's tricky. Yeah.
and there's sometimes where I'll listen like a little bit but mostly I'm just like checking to make sure that they're all occupied.
Yeah.
Like they're actually talking to each other. They're not
Yeah.
everyone's participating.
Yeah.
But yeah, people will share deeply within these 1 hour teleclasses.
That's
There will be
great.
people who are crying as they're sharing.
Nice.
It's like the workshop is happening in those breakout groups.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm really proud of is that having that format. Like I get to talk a lot, I get to teach a lot, I've got these ideas, but then I ask them a powerful question and they're all sharing and they'll
Nice.
all go deep quickly.
That's so good, man. I'm being really inspired to use this Meister conference and try to utilize this because that's great. I really enjoyed the one. I mean, the one you did, it was like it was just I never felt bored, really. Like, so what you shared was just very precise. You weren't couching it in like, well, this is what I think. You were just like, this is something, to consider, and it was you really got to it, and then you took questions, but you didn't overdo that, and then you broke people out, and then gave them the thing, and it was all about an hour. Like, it wasn't even that, wasn't super long, And the fact that people can do it, yeah, they don't need to be their computers. They can just call in and then press one or breakout or whatever, how that works. And it's like, or you put them in breakout groups, which is cool. Like you're like kind of you are the maestro, you know.
It's like you're,
you know, just very cool. Really, really, I loved it, man. Yeah.
yeah.
When are you doing
Thank
another
you.
one of those? Do you have another one coming up?
I did one, I think just last week on loving the plateau.
Hmm.
And April is so packed with like trainings and traveling. I'm going to do the next one sometime in May.
Nice.
So I've yet to decide what the theme will be for that one.
Hmm. I'd like to try something like that. I think that's a great. That's really cool. I'm gonna call you and
Yeah,
um,
if you
ask you
want
more
any
about that.
tips, it's something I've done a lot of,
Yeah, yeah. And it seems like there's a little bit of a skill building around it to make it work. I'm sure.
both
Um,
technical and in terms of the design.
yeah. Nice, man. That's great. Um, any other any closing arguments, closing comments for this topic here?
How would we summarize what we've talked about in
Well, I
this
love that I
conversation?
feel like we came up with the theme of the third option, which feels like a big win for the crew here. You know, the
Maybe we've
cameramen are like, oh,
successfully
thank God, there's like a purpose here now.
maybe we've successfully named the talk.
I'm feeling very good about that. And I'm just feeling like this is very, yeah, this has been really valuable for me to kind of really go deeper into this seduction of the work. Um, I was actually thinking, oh, geez, like I may, I may cut this up a little bit and make it a darken the page episode because it's really like this is so relevant to the creative process, and I feel like there's so much good stuff in here, about that would help people. That would help people create more. And I'm kind of glad. I almost had this like sense, in a silly way, that I was the only one doing this kind of like, like like having to take a shit until I finished the work, and like it always just seemed like kind of primal to me in a way that I was like, this is silly, but it's like not silly. It's actually real. Like this is, playing with this stuff even more. Like I really want to go and see what else I can do. I mean, in a silly way. Like I may have like fucking nipple clamps on or something while I'm working. I'm like, oh, I gotta finish this. Like, oh, thanks. I mean, really, like it's ridiculous, but it really works. And I have addictions. I am an unhealthy person, but why not use that shit instead of like try to fight it? Cause I do like playing Marvel Contest of Champions on my iPhone, but like, why not just have it there but have it be this thing that I play, at the end of the day. And, yeah, I just so appreciated that. So
Yeah, we get to like play with our like from knowing ourselves. Like the more that we know ourselves and how we work,
yeah, and when we
we
don't
get to
deny ourselves too, because I think we know, but then there's like a denial. The more like we really accept and like bring it in,
yeah.
hey, cool, you're that. Come on in, man. It's all good. You
Yeah,
know.
instead of shaming yourself for like
Yeah.
having an addiction or an impulse, you get to use it constructively.
Yeah.
It's like cool. We're going to actually like use that to encourage us to work,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
encourage us to create more, live better.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's why like everyone's routine, everyone's like style of working is going to be different, and it's going to evolve the more that we learn about ourselves, and
Yeah.
the more that we get to celebrate our oddities.
Yeah. It kind of reminds. You've seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Hmm.
It kind of reminds me of that speech that Matthew McConaughey with when Jordan Belfort's he's there and at that table he like pulls out the cocaine. He's like, this little baby gets you through the day, and in a way it's like that is obviously not not a thing in terms of sustainability, that there's a crash headed there, but there's a truth to like, let's use the chemicals to and he's like, I used cocaine to bring me up, pot to mellow me out, Xanax to blah blah blah. I mean, it was a very intentional using of all these chemicals, and we're doing the same thing if we're not using drugs. We're just using the chemicals in our brain, like dopamine, right? I don't know the science behind it, but I imagine the anticipation to the thing is a dopamine release.
Hmm.
If you're an
I think
addict,
so.
right? Like whatever, the serotonin, dopamine, but it's like you're actually using that stuff to motivate you as you would cocaine or as you would other things to up. It's an upper, and so the anticipation you get those upper drugs, and again, it's just a healthier version of what other people do.
Yeah, you don't need the cocaine. You just need like the thought about
Right,
cocaine.
right.
And suddenly you have like that spike,
Yeah,
which may or may not be good depending on
yeah,
circumstances.
yeah, yeah, totally. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
that's
love
great.
geeking out about this stuff because I'm continually working on my process and continually like exercising new muscles.
Yeah. I would love for us to go on our own little adventures with this and see how far we can take it. You know, in the natural chemicals world.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and the truth is also like sometimes like I don't. This is usually the last thing I think of, but like actually like smoking pot at like 6 p.m. to just mellow out is a great idea sometimes. You know, again, not. I don't think it's a good sustainable practice if you can't mellow out other ways, but but that is kind of nice sometimes. Or I mean, shit, I drink coffee in the morning. You know why? Well, it gives you it ride you that high. I mean, so where is the line? You know, like coffee and pot. You know, is it a gateway drug to other things? You know, I don't know, but I think it's clear that there is some experimentation with this that's worth it.
Yeah, and like with awareness, you'll like yeah, there's definitely the awareness of like what will the long-term impact of different practices be.
Hmm.
But yeah, like be creative and be curious and forgiving about certain things. Like if you think something is categorically bad, um, like look closer, like see like maybe there's a constructive use of it. And one of my aha moments here, and I know that we're also wrapping up. I remember hearing that Ken Wilber would watch a bunch of Netflix at night.
Oh, thank
He'd watch
God.
a bunch of movies and TV in order to like basically shut his brain down.
Ugh, that's what a relief. That's exactly right.
It's just like I need to stop thinking. I need to stop being so inspired. Stop like creating and writing. So I'm gonna like turn on a movie or like watch some TV
Yeah.
in order to so that I can go to sleep.
You know, God, that is such a fucking relief. Because I also wonder too for myself, like what are healthy shutdown activities and what are unhealthy. And I definitely put like watching, you know, entertainment TV as something that's unhealthy. But at some level, I know that helps me unwind. I just lose myself in the story, you know, and then all of a sudden I turn the story off and I'm like, well, I stopped thinking about whatever I was thinking about an hour ago, right? Because that's the way it works. And I
Hmm.
really love that. I really love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be just as healthy as like having a dance break in well in the middle of a work day
Yeah.
can be healthy to break you from that.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna use. I have. I've been Daredevil season 2 just came out on Netflix. I don't know if you watched the original, the season 1.
I
You did.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
I haven't started it yet because I was gone this whole weekend in Mexico. But so what I'm gonna do this week is I'm gonna use that, and I'm only gonna let myself watch one episode a day, but I'm gonna use that as the carrot for my day because that's only like I mean the episodes are I don't know how long, like a half an hour. So I can always fit that in at the end of the day. Like
Hmm.
that's not like a 3 hour time commitment for a movie or something. And yeah, I'm going to do that as like a shutdown activity.
Yeah, and see if it hooks you or not, because especially like with some of the series,
Hmm.
um, it can be like, oh, I need to watch the next one.
Oh, it'll definitely. I mean, it already like auto starts the next one. You're like, you have to stop it. You're like, no, no, don't do it.
Even the default is
You're like
against
running
us.
out of your world, you know, running out of the realm. No, I don't want to see it. If I start, I can't stop.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
You
What
know,
happened? The
yeah,
next episode
I
started.
know, I know, right?
I can't go in there. Please shut it off for me.
And and then of course they start it with the hook too. They start it with like the intro music. They start it with like something like, "Whoa, what the hell's happening?" And yeah, I think that would be good. In a way, it's like you know one of the I'm also a classic overeater, and I had heard actually Neil Strauss say this once. It was in one of his books. I think he was talking about emergency in that book Emergency, and he was like. He has the opposite sort of mindset when it comes to eating. I remember him saying, you know, his eating habits are like he likes kind of hoarding. Like so he won't eat everything because he likes saving it for later and having it available. And then he's like constantly saving the food up, you know, and having it in like an animal would, you know. And I was like, huh, like I never thought about it. I've always just eaten everything at all times.
You're hoarding inside instead
You
of
know, I'm
outside.
hoarding inside, which doesn't really, because it just shit it out like 10 hours later. But it's like, oh, like that's an interesting concept of this idea of like, you know, I'll have more for later. It's the same thing I do at night to convince myself to not eat or to go to bed early because I think about the morning. I go, wouldn't it be nice to be really hungry tomorrow morning and to wake up refreshed tomorrow morning? So maybe staying up till 5 a.m. is not a good idea. Or maybe, you know, like there's these, I have to kind of like, I have to look at that reward and really like get present to it and go, oh yeah, like, you know, especially with food. I mean, that's a big one for me. It's like, I love being hungry. Like I can't like eating when you're not hungry is not as fun as eating when you're hungry. And so, you know,
Then
like
there's
I can
like, if I
crave that.
eat this, I won't be hungry anymore, but I like being hungry.
Yeah, and then that's you're constantly delaying that, right? That's the teasing. You know, you're eating
Hmm.
and I could, you know, I'm definitely not going to eat too little. Like that's never going to happen to me. So if I constantly kind of tease that, well, I'll eat like, well, I really actually I'm really enjoying this feeling of hunger right now. Like, what if I, you know, how much better will it be in an hour if I wait? You know, like how much better will it be in 2 hours? You know, like keep waiting, and it's like, and that really, and then again, I'm getting some kind of whether it's dopamine or whatever. I think there's also some release in that too, you know, because and I'll think about what I'll make. I'll be, oh, I have like some yams and then this, and I'll put together and I'll cook some rice. I'll think about the meal that I'm gonna make, you know, and I'll make sure I'll even go maybe grocery shopping early in the day and have the things out there so I know what I'm gonna eat is gonna be badass, you
Hmm.
know, and I'm constantly building up to that, getting the rewards, like you said. I'd love to see a study on that. It'd be funny if we do some research and find something, but getting the reward of whatever chemical that is, of the anticipation of it, and then actually getting it, and then not getting lost in it or trying to pine for more, and then
Yeah.
moving on to something else. You
Wait,
know.
can you get like addicted to the anticipation?
Well, I don't know. See, maybe I think we do, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, you know, I don't think like I wouldn't I don't think I'd become anorexic in a sense, right? Like, um, but I don't know. But that would be I don't know. I would wonder.
So
Um,
interesting.
I mean, in a way,
Anyway,
with Bali, like I mean, in Bali, it was almost like I mean, some people would argue that my routine was unhealthy because I wasn't eating for. I mean, I was doing intermittent fasting basically, but I didn't realize it. I just like I was eating one meal at 4 p.m. every day, and that was it. And then maybe like a little snack at like 8 p.m. You know, and then I'd go to sleep, wake up, you know, not super hungry, but you know, and and then I drink a couple cups of coffee, have a little snack at like noon. Sometimes I wouldn't,
yeah,
and
it's like
then
you're working on like on when you were in ketosis.
what's that? What's that?
That's part of the intermittent
Oh,
fasting
okay. I don't even know
science.
about intermittent. Yeah,
It puts you in this ketosis mode, which I think is where you're burning fat for energy.
yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, that's good too. I did lose weight in Bali too. It was like really, yeah, yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think I might try to start that up again because I'm too my laziness on making food. Like right now in my house, like I could go snack on some cashews, and but there's not really ready-made food because all of our food is like fresh and vegetables or things that we have to actually prepare.
Hmm.
And Paula usually makes food around like noon or 1, and she'll just kind of bring me whatever she's making, you know, while I'm in here like working in my coffee high, you know. And so it would be interesting to say, okay, hey, you know, don't make me any food, and then I'm gonna go till like 5, you know, 4 or 5 p.m. And again. And I might try that. I'm actually going to tell
It's an
her.
yeah, it's an experiment. Try
Yeah,
it.
yeah, nice, um,
Cool.
nice, yeah, yeah. I'm excited to talk next week and see how these experiments went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
so nice. That's a
All
wrap.
right.
Yeah.